From the air, the Netherlands looks like a small stretch of low land on the North Sea, squeezed between Belgium and Germany. Yet nearly 1.8 million hectares, about 54% of the country, are used for agriculture. In 2024, Dutch businesses exported €128.9 billion worth of agricultural goods. But that figure does not all come from Dutch farms. About €83.4 billion came from products grown or made in the Netherlands. Another €45.5 billion came from food imported from elsewhere, then traded, processed, or sent onward through Dutch businesses. Germany bought about a quarter of the total. Westland grows under glass. Flevoland was made from the sea. Wageningen tests the methods. Rotterdam moves the goods into Europe. These places sit close together. The question is how they came to work as one. Westland sits just west of Rotterdam. From above, it is a dense belt of glass houses. Across the Netherlands, greenhouse horticulture covered about 10,000 hectares in 2024. In 2023, tomatoes alone occupied 1,171 hectares under glass. Peppers used another 1,555. Here, growers do not simply wait for a good season, they manage it. Heat, light, water, nutrients, and pests are handled as separate parts of the same production line. Drip lines feed the plants, screens and ventilation shape the climate. In 2024, biological pest control was used across 94% of Dutch greenhouse crop area. The job continues after the crop is picked, grading, packing, and moving it quickly toward European shelves. In 2024, the Netherlands harvested about 5.4 billion kilograms of vegetables. But glass does not make food free. This system needs energy, specialized equipment, capital, and constant management. Westland did not remove nature from farming. It made farming less dependent on the weather. In the winter of 1944, the Western Netherlands was still under German occupation. The railway strike had disrupted transport. German retaliation then restricted food and fuel shipments to the country's biggest cities. A severe winter made an already fragile supply system break down faster. By April 1945, official rations in the western cities had fallen to around 500 calories a day. Families queued at communal kitchens. Some people ate tulip bulbs because there was little else. Around 20,000 people are estimated to have died from hunger and cold. The exact total is still debated, but the lesson was not. A country that could lose access to food so quickly could not treat food as just another commodity. After the war, food security became a national problem, one tied to water, land, transport, and planning. That is the reason the Dutch food machine was built. The hunger winter made food security a national problem. But part of the Dutch answer had begun decades earlier, creating land where there had been water. In 1932, engineers completed the 32-kilometer Afsluitdijk, sealing off the Zuiderzee from the North Sea. Inside the new lake, they built ring dikes and pumped the water out. Eastern Flevoland emerged in 1957. Southern Flevoland followed in 1968. But an exposed seabed was not yet farmland. It was saturated mud. Reeds were sown to dry and strengthen the soil. Crews dug ditches, installed drains, laid roads, and divided the new ground into fields before farms could move in. Eastern Flevoland alone created 54,000 hectares. Across the province, roughly 1,400 square kilometers of land now sit where water once dominated the map, and the work never stopped. Much of the polder lies several meters below the surrounding water, so pumps still keep it dry. Flevoland is not land the Dutch reclaimed once. It is land they maintain every day. Flevoland shows that Dutch agriculture can build land. Wageningen asks a different question. Once that land exists, how do you keep improving what happens on it? At Wageningen University and Research, Unifarm combines controlled greenhouses with 220 hectares of trial fields. Breeders and growers can test a variety, a cultivation system, or disease resistance. Researchers measure crops, process samples, and report the results. But the loop does not end on campus. In WUR's precision agriculture testing grounds, farmers, companies, and public authorities test tools in real fields. Sensor data, soil scans, and yield measurements become decisions. Vary fertilizer, target irrigation, or change crop protection. Not every trial works. Farmers send practical problems back into the system, and the next trial tests a better answer. Around Wageningen, Food Valley helps connect research, businesses, and public partners. That is why Dutch agriculture can send out more than vegetables, seeds, greenhouse systems, machinery, data tools, and the methods that make them usable. From Wageningen, that knowledge still needs a route to market. The next machine is Rotterdam. The Dutch food machine does not end at the farm gate. It continues at Rotterdam. In 2024, Dutch businesses exported 128.9 billion euros worth of agricultural goods. That is a trade figure, not a measure of what Dutch farms earned. About 83.4 billion euros came from goods produced in the Netherlands. Another 45.5 billion came from agricultural goods made elsewhere and re-exported by Dutch businesses. Take soybeans as one example. The port connects to producing regions in North and South America. At Rotterdam, soy can be unloaded, stored, transferred, and in some cases processed before moving on. The same port links ships to barges, railways, and roads across Europe. Germany was the largest destination for Dutch agricultural exports in 2024, 32 billion euros, about a quarter of the total. So Rotterdam is not proof that all Dutch food is grown in Dutch soil. It shows something else. A food system can create value by moving, handling, processing, and distributing goods for a much larger market. The Dutch food machine has another output, manure. In April 2024, the Netherlands had about 3.7 million cattle. Cattle are only part of the livestock system, but they show its scale. Manure releases ammonia in barns, in storage, and when it is spread on fields. Under national emission ceilings accounting, agriculture produced 90.9% of Dutch ammonia emissions in 2022. Cattle accounted for about 53% of agriculture's ammonia emissions. This is not the whole nitrogen story. Traffic and industry release nitrogen oxides too. But ammonia from livestock is the largest source of this particular pressure. It does not remain at the farm gate. It moves through the air and settles on soil and plants. Where intensive farms and protected nature sit close together, that deposition can damage vulnerable ecosystems. In 2019, the Council of State ruled that PAS could no longer support permits for new emitting activities. Nitrogen now puts nature, farm incomes, permits, housing, and infrastructure into conflict. The Dutch food machine solved the limits of land, water, and distance. Now it has met another limit: nature. The Dutch food machine is no greenhouse miracle. It begins with land and water. Flevoland's dikes, pumps, and planning turned water into farmland. In Westland, glass houses manage light, water, temperature, pests, and harvests. In Wageningen, field problems become trials, measurements, and decisions. In Rotterdam, food is stored, processed, and sent into Europe, including goods not grown in Dutch soil. They are not separate tricks. Engineering needs knowledge. Controlled production needs water, energy, and logistics. Research matters when it reaches fields, businesses, and public decisions. The system works because its parts are connected, but connection concentrates pressure. In 2022, agriculture accounted for 90.9% of Dutch ammonia emissions under national emission ceilings accounting. The machine did not remove scarcity. It moved the limit from land and weather to air, nature, permits, and livelihoods. The Netherlands succeeded not by having the most land, but by organizing every square meter, every drop of water, every lesson, and every route. Efficiency is powerful. It is never free.